Today is Thursday, June 26th at 7 p.m. and I'd like to call a special meeting of the Richmond Township Board of Trustees to order. Would everyone please stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Sure. Jeff Benjamin.
Here.
Kathy Lappin. Here. Cindy Brunia.
Here.
Chris Brittle.
Here.
And Vern Coleman.
Here.
On the presentation of agenda before the meeting, we had discussed possibly adding discussion of the ditching program. Does anyone still want to do that, or do we want to hold off on that? You want to discuss the ditching program at all? I remember after the meeting, Chuck had talked, and I had spoken with her, Chris and Kathy about possibly discussing it tonight. Did you want to still add it to the agenda?
It's up to you.
Yes, then I would like someone to make a motion to add as item 7, discussing the county ditching program.
I'll make that motion.
There's support?
Sorry.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is the public comment. Anyone having public comment, please come up to the podium and state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Stacy Van Oost, 26161 Dayton Road. And I guess I just want to say I appreciate that we're having this discussion, because I do think it's a big need for our community that we get drainage and ditches and everything. In general, I don't like the idea of a millage, but I know that we have to pay for this somehow. I would like, I guess, to know that we've gone through the budget and everything first, and kind of see if we can find any money, if maybe we've over budgeted in some areas or something, that we could pull some funds from to put towards this, before we talk about an amount of the millage. But I guess that's all I really want to say, is I know you're very conservative here with our budget, and I appreciate that. And I guess I would just like to make sure that we know that we've done everything we can to figure out how to pay for whatever we have to do before we go over a big millage. I don't know, I feel in these economic times and uncertainty and stuff, you know, we owe it to them. And I'm not saying you're doing anything bad or anything, it's just a general feeling that we need to continue to do, you know, to good stewards of the money and the rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Barbara Holmes, 37925 Powell Road. I'm in complete agreement with her that this money, I want to know what happened to our road money, you know, from the county and the state. Because if they're not doing any ditches all these years, what happened to all that money? You know, we're supposed to be having the money come from the road commission and all the stuff from the roads. We're not even getting anything done, so there should be a whole ton of money out there from the road commission that should be to do our ditches. We never used to have a millage back in those days. The road commission came out, Macomb County came out, they got that money for us. We never had any problem with that. So I don't know, all of a sudden we have to have a millage. I don't know about you, but I'm on Social Security, and that's gonna be a really hard thing for me to do. I'm barely able to, you know, do things now. I can't even do half the things I need to do because we have another millage or something like that. No, I think this is not right, and I feel that there should be somewhere in Macomb County that has money for us to do those ditches.
Thank you. Any further comment? Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, we will go then to discussion of the millage question for ditching, drains, and roads. We had discussed earlier possibly putting a ballot question on the November election to see if the township residents would be in favor or opposed to a millage to help fix the drainage problems and the road problems that we have in the township. Just to address it quickly, as an example, we had talked to the county road commissioner, Department of Roads, last week, and we just had them give us an estimate on doing a mile of ditching at Berman and Urban, both sides of the roads, and the cost estimate for that, just to clean it, was $255,000. So the township itself would not be able to, just out of our general fund with our general money, be able to pay for that type of expense. The county road commission, well, we do get some monies from them, and they do invest 2.5 times the amount of Act 51 money that the state gives them in just maintenance for our roads. They are indicated to us that they have, much bigger places to spend their money, which is probably true in many ways. So I feel like us discussing the possibility of having a millage, a road millage, drainage, ditching, is our way of trying to move forward in our township to try to address some of those issues. We know it is a big issue. We know there are a lot of people that it affects. I think when we were at that meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, Chuck, John Paul Reyes said that within a 2-mile area of the township in the last 2 years, there have been 21 new homes built, and there are permits currently open for 14 more new homes, just in that one area. And that causes drainage issues. So, I feel like what we're trying to do is we're trying to ask for a little money to hopefully make enough difference that people will feel. I don't personally feel that we will ever get enough money from the county, that the township will ever get enough money from the county to do what we are going to try to accomplish by getting the millage passed. That's just my personal opinion. And is it discouraging? It is. It is very, very discouraging, for sure. I agree. But I think that we're, as a board, trying to make a good decision, and in the end, we are letting you folks choose. But, the purpose of that election is you are going to tell us, do you want this? Do you want to, spend X amount of dollars every year to make an improvement in the township? You'll answer us, and then we'll know. So, on that note, I think, because initially, this was Trustee Kreiderman's thought, I'm going to let him go ahead and address what he thinks perhaps we could do as far as how much millage and the like, if you'd like to do that.
Be glad to. Where this came about, obviously, when I ran for the board, I ran on the pretense that we do something about roads, ditches, and drains. And I've done my very best. I think you've watched board meetings since I've been on. I don't think there's probably anybody cheaper on the board than I am. I question every account. I question every penny that goes down the door. But with that being said, I can't make the impossible go away. If you want to see results, we have to divvy up. We've met with the county, and we had a great meeting. They understand there's a problem. To this point, this year, as of June 1st, Richmond Township had over 1,400 calls complaining. It's the highest complaint area in the whole northern end. Just think about Richmond Township. We have a population of 5,800 people. And so far, since January in Richmond Township, they said that they had 1,400 calls about the roads, ditches, and the things of that nature out here. With that being said, they'd like to do something too. The millings that we're talking about, when I initially came up with it, I thought 2 mills would, 1 mill on the township roll equals $250,000, if you can imagine that, okay, or put that in your mind. 2 mills would have gave us $500,000 a year. $500,000, if we take that back and they give us 80% matching money, would equal about $5 million. $5 million over 5 years would give us about $25 million to be spent on drains, ditches, and roads. And over a period of 5 years, we should look like our infrastructure should just look entirely different than it looks today. But the key thing to all this is there's 2 key points. Number 1 is the matching funds coming from the county. Number 2 is that it's 80%. There's a paper that was just, we didn't hand them out, they're in the back of the board. If someone could go back and grab them, papers are on the back. So you can follow along and you know exactly what we're talking about. This is right straight from there. And you're welcome to take these home and study them so you know exactly what we're up against. There's a project in there where they want 50-50 matching funds for doing roads. And that's what we were quoting earlier, to do that little spot, not the whole road. It'll only end up being, what, a mile, give or take? Both sides of the road, I think it's like $235,000. Well, you know how many dollars that would take to get through the township? And our ditches on the side of the road is only one problem. The county drains are the other problem. They gotta have somewhere to drain into, or we're defeating the purpose. So it's all gotta come together at one point, or we're putting Band-Aids all over the county. You know, the limestone project, they give us 90%, we pay 10% matching funds. You know, I think each year what we spend on that, give or take.
It's usually about 30,000 this year, we agreed to 40.
So that means they're putting on about $300,000 of limestone every year. But, you know, the first time it rains real hard, or you get one of these floods, it ends up in the ditch or on the shoulder, and we're right back with the same old road that we had. It is not real easy to go and sit with a group of guys that do this for a living, that are responsible for the whole county, that every day all they do is hear complaints from all over the county. And they're trying to take what they are getting and pass it around. And where we come into a problem is we got 5,800 people. You know, they got areas down there that they got a couple million people complaining. And of course, you know, when they get X amount of dollars for the whole county, obviously they're taken care of first, and that's why the money's always the shortest getting further north. And that kind of answers your question. You know, you've been paying money for ages, and then where's it all went? Well, it probably went where whoever complained the loudest at that given time or had the most need, I believe would be the proper terminology. Okay, and every one of them, we had an opportunity to meet with, 7 township supervisors and some of their trustees. Every township is dealing with exactly the same problem as we are. So we're not unique to the problem. It is a problem. It's not going to go away. The last time our county ditch, or our township drain, the county drains, it was 55 years ago. So when you start doing the math, no maintenance or no upkeep, nothing done to any of these county drains in 55 years, you see what we're up against. It just didn't happen. That's why years ago we didn't have to pay that kind of money. No, you had a new drain and it was draining well. You know, but along the way we haven't contributed, and so now it's snuck upon us and we got a mess. And so putting it all together and looking at everything, if we can get 80% matching funds, my suggestion would be that we would cut that, not 2 mils, but let's try to do it with 1 mil. And it'd be a 1 mil, 5 years, going strictly into a fund, not to our general treasurer. It would go into a fund for roads, drains, ditches. And that would be our matching funds. We'll take that with the county and we'll go as far as we can go. And what 1 mil would look like, if we got 250,000, that's what 1 mil would bring. If we can squeak another $250,000 out of our budget, and that can't be a promise, because if we get hit with other incidentals in the township, they're an emergency, we might not be able to contribute that much to it. But this year, we got talking amongst ourselves here earlier, and it looks like we're gonna end up in that ballpark already. So if we take that 500, we haven't pressed it all onto the township the residents for more money. Now let's work it backwards in English, what that means we should have in dollars to work with. If we can get 80% matching funds, and we take and use that 500,000 for our 20%, I think we've worked out that should work out, is it $4 million a year? And over 5 years, that should equal $20 million. That's our goal. Now, it isn't spent. And the other thing, we've just, Hackle's office, this John Paul Ray, this his assistant, he has just been 110% to work with. Every one of the complaints, he sat up here and wrote all of them down. He's been out and physically walked every one of them already. He could tell you what the problem is in every one of them deals. And in walking out with me in the door, he said, if you can work with us and get the millage through and get matching funds, he said, I'll do my very best, that we, not 50%, but at 80%. And the other key thing is he'd like to put it all out for bid, and it won't be done by the road commission. I don't mean to throw any stones at the road commission, but I just think we can get more pop for the dollar if a contractor is there running his crew at the end of the day. Then we're going to get somebody that has to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And if they can just keep the roads maintained after we get them upgraded, I think we've gone a long ways. The other thing that comes back into play is, I'm sure, as your taxes are going to go up, well, who's going to get the roads fixed first? And my suggestion would be that maybe we haven't talked about this, but I'd be in favor of that we form a committee, and we'd ask for 4 or 5 people who would volunteer to sit on that committee. And that committee would actually determine, so it takes it away from anybody, there's no favoritism. It would just be based on that committee and what they see needs for. Does that make any sense? But these county drains, we got them cleaning in there, and I can assure you that water, we just had we've had about 6 inches in the last 10 days again, and I can't believe how quick that water is already moving, how much difference it's already made. And they're not, I don't think they'd be a third of the way through of what they need to do. So just think, once some drains are already open, and not to have all this backup, what it could be like, and to have roads that it could be a pleasure to drive down instead of needing all trimmed here. So that's all I got to say. I mean, and again, we're throwing it out there. If you don't want it, can't afford it, I'm not here trying to jam something down your neck. I'm here trying to offer a solution. But I think it's something we all need to do together. I don't think it's we're not going to have the county come up forward and say, we'll just take care of it. It's not a problem at all. You consider it for the next 5 years. We'll fix it all up for it. They're not going to do that. It's a great move to get them to give us a commitment to say that they'll do 80% matching funds instead of 50 and make the dollars go a lot further. And a really big move to be able to hire contractors instead of doing it in-house with the equipment they got and the time factor and the employees, because they just don't have that manpower to do all this. Is there any questions that I missed?
They talked about, like, where I'm at down at the west end of the township, it's like natural drains, which really aren't county maintained, they're by the state. And there's a problem working with that Eagle that oversees that stuff. I mean, would there be money available to get some of those, the state drains, natural rivers, whatever, get those cleaned up, do you think? Or?
You know, that's really a good question, but I'm not in a position I can comment because.
I am.
Okay.
We have a place up in Port Sanilac, and there was a culvert up on the main highway, and it came down and it created a huge ravine over, since the dawn of time that land existed. We bought it thinking we could reroute it, and yes, we worked with the state civil engineer and rerouted it, but the expense will not come from the village, or it had to come from us,
Property owner.
the property owner. That was in Port Sanilac, but it's still in Michigan, and I can't imagine it being different. But if you would have, yeah, it cost a pretty penny, but it made our lot perfect.
We have a meeting coming up with the Drain Commission, with our Drain Commissioner, and hopefully it'll be within the next week or two. It's going to be after 2 weeks, isn't it? After 2 weeks, right?
It is, but we could also, if Vern would be willing to go, that would be something, then you wouldn't have to wait. And I do have an email, and he did answer me that he would set something up, or someone to touch base with him next month, just to, you know.
Yeah, I have one question. You said we get $500,000 and then an 80% match from the state. That's $400,000. That's not $4 million. So we're only getting $900,000.
Over a period of 5 years is what we're saying. We'd be contributing.
Okay,
We
then
would be
before that,
contributing about $500,000 a year out of the mill,
correct.
and what we can come out of our treasury.
Right.
All right, and they're gonna give us 80% beyond that.
Right, and it's 400,000.
No.
Oh, yeah.
It's 400.
80% of 500,000 is.
No. We're gonna give them 20%. They're gonna give us 80%. So we're taking that $500,000 and turning it into $4 million. Or 4 million.
In other words, if the cost of the project is $1 million,
Mhm.
they would pay 800,000, we would pay 200,000.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I think if you're set, I'd like to ask the rest of the board their feeling, and then we could make a motion on that. How would you be feeling about putting a no question on that?
I think we have to, I agree with the people where they said, you know, never used to be like that, but that's not how it is anymore. It's, you know, in order to get this infrastructure, even all across the state or even all across the country, it's gonna cost us money. And so I think we need to turn to the people and say, if this is what you want, and like Charlie said, then vote down. You know, we're just trying to create a solution. We cannot get the county to come out and do this work for free. It's not gonna happen. You know, we can stand up there and yell and scream, do whatever we want, it's not gonna happen. You know, we've been trying to do the county drains just out of our own budget, just out of our general fund. But again, we know we can't keep doing that if you want to do the road ditches and everything. So, yeah, I'm fine with it. And I think the key to the program is that the county's telling us that if you do get a millage, they'll do the 80-20. Otherwise, it's 50-50. And there's no way in the world we could do 50. They're not gonna get nothing done. Where if we can get them to commit to the 80, then it's, I think we're doing. Yeah.
Yep. Chris?
So, how I'm thinking is, if they say they will give us 80%, but when will they commit to the 80%? I mean, they want to put this on the ballot, and we don't know if they're going to commit to 80%.
I don't think we can put that on the ballot because I think that could be a changing thing each year. We'll have the option whether we want to go with it or not. It's the same. We even though we have the 500,000, if or 250,000 in our matching funds, if we don't see fit in the project that they want to do and they want more than the 20%, we don't have to go with that particular project. You know, we're not guaranteeing them everything they come up with. All we're saying is, you know, I mean, that's the pretense that we're pushing it on, as long as they live up to their end.
And we also may not go with them either, so when we would take bids in, it could bring it down to that.
I'm sure there will be other particulars about the permitting, and, because I know I did speak with somebody who said, oh, the county's gonna let you do that, and they said, yes, they would, because we did ask them, could we use contractors, and they said they would allow that to happen. So,
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants to pay higher taxes, I get that. But in order to get this taken care of, I mean, I have problems too on my property that needs to be taken care of. And, you know, that's what we gotta do.
I think it's key to Charlie brought, it's not going into the general fund.
right,
This is strictly for roads, ditches.
and that will be because of the way that the language has to be written. That will be all you could ever use it for.
If we have issues with the county later on, but Charlie said, we can just say, well, we're not spending our money that way this year, or we're gonna get a private contract or whatever. So, I mean, I think that one safety net we have is that, you know, even if we don't spend any money, we're building that fund up, so maybe we can agree down the road.
I just want to say that where I live on Hable Road, I'm very fortunate. We're high, we're dry, we got deep ditches, we've got great swells. So therefore, like I said, I'm very lucky, I'm very fortunate. But I also sit on the board And all my sympathy goes out to you guys. And I do believe I would encourage you guys, yes, to go for the millage. Because I would be more than happy to pay for it, even though I'm not gonna reap any benefit from it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I feel it's my city duty to go ahead and help the township out, because this is what I said on the board for, just for you guys.
Sir, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry I got here a little bit late, and maybe this was a topic that had been discussed already, but as someone who does drainage work, I kind of wanted to come here tonight and talk to you guys a little bit. I think a lot of the issue that goes on around here is issue of development, not necessarily poor infrastructure. So the infrastructure, the road ditches, the culverts that were sized when they were installed 30 years ago, 40 years ago, a lot of that is being overwhelmed. And so we all know that the growth around here has been crazy, right? There's how many, 50 or 100 new homes going up every year in the township. Every time we take a farm field that was maybe 40 acres that was relatively flat and we'd get an inch of rain and that rain would sit on that farm field, well now that 40-acre field has 5-6 houses on it, all of whom got roadfront property and they got a sub pump, and every yard is graded to put that water right to the road ditch right away. And so a lot of our road ditches, our county drains, they're being overwhelmed by development. They were never designed to take that amount of water. And that's why we see these surge floods. The roads are covered with water for 24 hours and then it subsides, or the farm fields are flooded for 24 hours and then subside. And it's really just an issue of we're developing above what the infrastructure was made to handle. And so, even I am someone who works with the County Drain Commission. I know what they do to try to improve drainage. And for the most part, it's restoring that county drain to what it was originally built to. They're not going beyond that, because to go beyond that would mean new culverts, new depths, all new surveys. So even when the County Drain Commission comes through and does some maintenance, it's just restoring it to what it was built to 40, 50 years ago. And so I really do think that the long-term solution is going to be an improvement of infrastructure, not just a maintenance of what we have. Because what we have was never designed.
And I'm going to stop you right there because we're going way left field here. We're just talking about the millage, and I certainly appreciate your input. I've been pretty loose about this.
Yeah.
I'm really not supposed to take any questions.
Okay.
We're discussing at the board at all.
Sure.
So I appreciate that. I think I just would like to finish this particular thing up, and then if you'd like to talk after, we can have public comment after.
I said what I wanted to say.
I appreciate your input though, sir. I hope you know that, okay? Okay, so we're all set?
Yes.
Okay. And so, my feeling on it is I'm absolutely in favor of putting this on the ballot. I do think 1 mil is a good mill to put on there. I always think giving people the option to choose whether or not they think something is important enough to their quality of life, they can make a choice. So that being said, I will do have the language for what it would sound like, and I can make the motion, or someone else would like to make the motion after I read it, or read the ballot language into the motion. Does someone want to do that, or do you want me to do it?
I have no problem either way. You can go make it, I'll second it, or...
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that Richmond Township proposes a ditching, drainage, and road millage ballot question on is it November 4th, Kathy? And I'm so sorry, I don't know.
I should know. November 4th.
On the November 4th, 2025 ballot to read as follows. Shall the Township of Richmond, Macomb County, Michigan, be authorized to levy a new additional millage annually in an amount not to exceed $1 on each $1,000 of taxable value against all taxable property within 2025 through 2029 inclusive, for the purpose of funding maintenance of ditches, drains, and roads within the township. The estimate of the revenue the township will collect in the first year of levy, 2025, if the millage is approved, is approximately $241,000. By law, the millage will be dispersed to the Richmond Township Drain Fund. And I would first second to that motion.
And I'll second that motion.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay?
Could we do a roll call?
You could if you'd like. You want to do a roll call?
Something like this, we should do a roll call.
You made the motion, correct?
Yep, I did. Yep.
Cindy Greener,
Aye.
Chuck Freiderman,
Aye.
Vern Coleman,
Aye.
Chris Bricko,
Yes.
Kathy LaFontaine. Yes.
Great, motion is carried. Okay, awesome. And then Kathy will certify it and get it down to the county, and we have ourselves, a ballot proposal, which is good. I do briefly want to touch on something that Chuck said before as well. I do think that we're going to have to form some kind of committee, so I know Vern and I have talked to two.
Yeah.
I think if we can get 2 board members on that committee, I would be of very little value. My input on that would be of very little value on that committee. So perhaps both of you could talk to a couple of other people that would farm in the community and perhaps some other residents. And I don't know how big the committee should be, maybe 7, 8 people, something like that.
And if we get too many,
Right, then
Yeah.
you get-
yeah, we're having to upgrade and go look at things, but
yeah.
we do need input because part of the input's going to be from marketing. If we don't get the knowledge through, we're going to keep on doing what we're doing now. And it's going to cost more next year and more the year after to do what we need to be doing now. And it's only going to get worse, so. But that, again, it's your decision. I mean, I'm not here to try to show anything.
Alrighty, awesome. So we did add item number 7, discussion of the county ditching program offer, the 50/50. We did bring this up earlier at our meeting. They had told us about all the additional, going to your gentleman, to what you had said, all the additional homes that were being built at the Berman and Irwin Road area of the township. And that was causing a lot of concern. The application for the program is due tomorrow at 4 p.m. At our last meeting, we had determined we were not going to put any money in. I just wanted to throw this back on to see if anyone felt any differently. Do you want to try to do something with those 2 small areas, or do you want to wait? I don't have a hard feeling either way on there, but I did want to bring it up. So we'll start, Vern, how do you feel about that? If we did it all, our portions
I
would be,
just don't see us entering into this 50/50 program. It's just too expensive. It just, we're not really paying for a buck unless we want to go out and try to bid this ourselves or something. But by what they're telling us, before they told us it was going to cost $45 a linear foot. Now this one they give you here today, they're telling you that it figures out to $20.
yep,
But then they're telling you that this ditching is going to take them 33 days.
which seems like
That seems like awful.
I don't know, watch my work here in M19, it's probably going to take that long.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not in favor of getting it. I know the work needs to be done. But to also, to answer the gentleman's question out there, they are replacing almost a lot of the culverts. Like on Irving Road alone, they're saying there's 9 12-inch culverts that have to be upgraded to 18. And then on Berman, there's 11 12-inch culverts that need to be upgraded to 18. So that's taking into the cost. See, I always thought the culverts were for the landowner,
I did too.
but they're replacing, they're charging us to replace them, or that's part of the program. So I mean, you have to remember that too, the landowners, But I'm just not in favor of this 50/50 program. I think people said they used to do all this stuff for us, and now they want us to pay for it. And
Get that figure, maybe I need letter, I don't know, but I'm reading it, and I guess I'm not grasping. Is the 255,300 the gross amount that it's gonna cost?
That's my understanding.
That's my understanding too.
But on the back, it says total estimate 255,300.
Okay, that's what I'm looking at. So are they asking us to pay 50% of that, which would be roughly 120?
28 something.
yeah, then they're saying it's $255,000 for the culverts. You have to put the two together.
So I think that the
That
total
project-
estimate with the culverts and the cleaning of the ditch, those
Ditch.
small areas,
Exactly.
is the 255,300.
So if they would give us an 80% on that and bid it out, and get the ball rolling in good faith, like we're trying to do with the village, that could make that all entirely different.
Yeah, I think,
I'd be looking at about roughly $60,000.
Yeah.
Chris, are you in favor of this?
Since we're gonna do a millage, I think that maybe we should just hold off on that, 2-mile thing. It's just hard to pick and choose, like I said before, what 2 miles we're gonna do. Hopefully they'll all get done.
Chuck,
I'm agreed.
that you just to wait, Kathy?
Yes.
I agree too. Okay, so no action on that, so, that's it, I'm open for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Is there support?
I'll support it.
Any discussion?
I do have one question,
Yeah.
and I just don't know. I'm just curious, is this gonna run the same way like when we tried to put the police millage on the ballot? We as a board cannot advocate
cannot.
for this.
And I have a
So-
list of rules from Sherry that I will be passing out to the board.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have to
We
the
cannot-
public to,
We can meet at someone's house, but, or we could meet uptown to discuss something, but we cannot use township facilities, any copy machines, any telephones, any paper, it's pretty clear. So, but I think we get, that doesn't mean we can't be part of a committee, and we all can put a sign in our front yard, right?
right,
So,
but we just can't advocate
Yeah.
for it at all, even on election day.
nope. Did you have one more before we call the all day on the agenda?
We didn't have this on the agenda, but the county program, we were kind of disappointed with how that's moving along. Has that gotten any better?
We certainly talked about it at the meeting last Friday, and as I mentioned to Chuck and Kathy before the meeting, I said I would not be a good judge of that. They would have a better judge, and probably you as well, as to how you think.
Yeah.
They're doing.
I know the people that I've talked to have been kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Schaefer drains ever gotten any, have they done any more, Carol, do you know if they did any more?
They finished behind my place, which would take it from Pratt Road to Dealing. Looks to me like it's all done.
Yeah.
They've extended east of Dealing a distance, but I don't know how far. I would speak to the fact that this last rain, it's working much better.
Okay.
Oh, we like to hear that.
So I would say what they did was a success. It took the water in and it went down a lot faster than it was.
Okay. Because I think some of the concern was is that they weren't taking enough out of the bottom of the ditch. But they can't go beyond it.
No,
It's
no,
the original grade.
and maybe not taking all the trees
Yeah.
out of the ditch. They were leaving those, but I understood that was to keep it from eroding.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Okay, all set?
That's fine, yeah. Okay.
Move it.
I'm assuming because the election is November 4th, this will be the summer tax.
Actually, we got the library election last time was in November, and we got it out of December. And I feel like because the December is the lighter tax, that would be the place to put it. The library had run out, and it had to go back up for election, and it was out in November, and we got it on the December taxes. But I will call just to make
Well, just see where
sure.
we can do. I thought it was November 1st. It's December 1st.
It sure didn't have much time to get it on there, but
We can do that. That's Then we're good.